I am Plato Pearson Jr., more commonly known by my nickname of Tete. I was born in Gastonia, North Carolina, October the 13th, 1924. Testing 1, 2, 3.
It's my great pleasure to welcome Plato Tete Pearson Jr. to 90 over 90. Tete was born in Gastonia, North Carolina on October 13, 1924. He has been happily married to Betty Ann Epps Pearson for over 65 years, and together they've raised 4 children, Martin, Rob, Joe, and Steve. They are the proud grandparents of 13 and great-grandparents of 2. Tete is retired from a long and distinguished career in business and in banking. Tete, welcome to 90 over 90 in Point of Rock Studios. Good to see you this afternoon.
Thank you. Good to be with you, Rob.
I appreciate you agreeing to do this interview. I don't think anyone who's over the age of 60 years old and grew up in Gastonia would not have heard of Pearson Groceries. I know I did growing up, and I think most people my age or older remembers at least a little bit about what that grocery store is all about. Why don't you tell us about how it got started and what your family's involvement was?
Well, my father took over from his father because of my grandfather's poor health. He took over the grocery store at a quite young age. It was a small grocery on Airline Avenue, right at Highland Street, where you go up to the old city hospital.
Would that have been when, approximately, what part of the 1900s, early 1900s?
You'll have to figure that out. Dad was probably less than 20 years old when he started operating the grocery. I think the interesting thing about then and now, 2 ways of buying groceries. A lady would come in the store and come up to the counter and give the grocery clerk a list. The clerk would go get all the groceries and bring them back to her and take them to the car for if necessary, and they'd send you a bill at the end of the month. Or you could call in and a delivery truck would bring it to your house and bring your order to your house. And I used to ride the delivery truck occasionally, and you drive up somebody's yard, go in the back door, nobody was home, house would be unlocked, you can go in the back door, put the groceries on the table or the milk in the refrigerator, and leave, and you again send them a bill at the end of the month.
We don't get that service today too much, do we?
No, that's supermarket stuff, but that's the way your grocery business was operated back then. So,
Well, I imagine your dad knew the customers by name too, for the most part.
Oh, yes.
And you did too.
It was a phone. Well, I didn't really. It was and several of his brother too, and a sister or two worked there over a period of time, and eventually a brother took it over when he went into other businesses.
Mm-hmm. So it was one location.
Originally, but Dad opened a couple of other stores in Gastonia in over a period of time.
Oh, did they?
That was the main one, yes.
What was the competition?
Well, it was Ennis Jackson on Main Street, and the Craigs on Broad Street, and all local groceries like that, all small.
This would have been when you worked there would have been in the 30s, and I guess Main Street was pretty much the hub of commercial activity.
Well, yes, and I forgot about that, but Dad and his brother Grady opened a store on Main Street called Pearson's Food Store, and I just worked there sometimes on Saturday, but in spare time you would be in the back room shelling peas or things like that. You didn't have the frozen things you do today.
Well, you mentioned your family. Let's talk about your family. Tell me about your brothers and sisters and your mom and dad, and a little bit about some of your earliest memories of living in the Pearson household and what it was like, and
Okay.
so people can understand a little bit what it was like for you growing up in the 20s and 30s.
Well, I was really blessed. My parents were great people. Dad was a man of great integrity, that great example in all those areas. He was a man of few words. When he said something, you knew he meant it. Mother was a very loving person, looked after us all. And my brother Charlie was 2 years younger. We were very close. He was a star athlete, excellent in all sports, and I couldn't play any of them. He had the athletic ability. My sister, Kathy, was 5 years younger than me, and my sister Ann, who died in her 40s, was 10 years younger. So I was close to my sisters, but there was an age difference. And
Spread out.
well, when I went off to school, my sisters were still quite young,
Mm-hmm.
but we were spread out, yes. But it was a great family, and we all got along fine, and we're all treated equally, and we're blessed with a great parents and a great family.
Were they strict disciplinarians? Did you require a lot of hands-on work, Tete, or did you kind of get the message early?
I can't say they were strict, but we knew what was expected, and when Dad spoke to us, that was it.
No ifs, ands, or
And
buts.
we listened to Mother too, and we had chores to do around the house, and I always worked on Saturdays and either grocery store or service stations later, but they were very fair, treated all of us equally, and they were strict and not overly strict.
Right.
They were good. They were just set a good example, and we knew what we expected of us.
Well, you can't ask for much more than that, can you?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Gastonia, during that era, when you were approaching your teen years, I guess was considered first and foremost a textile town.
Oh, very much so.
And so the life in Gaston County revolved around the mills and all the associate businesses that went with it. And you went to, I guess it was Gastonia High School.
Gastonia High School.
Class of what?
Well, I finished there in 42.
All right. And Mr. Ashley was your principal, I guess?
Exactly.
Tell me some of your friends that you remember, some of your friendships that you developed at school, and kind of what y'all did for fun back then.
Well, we call it today the 24 group, because most of us in that class were born in 1924, and we went through school together, and those who mostly lived here have made in good touch and been great friends over the years. Oh, it was Wilson Dunn, Duke Kimbrell, Houston Matthews, Bob Adams, Pat Craig.
Bynum Carter in that group?
Oh yes, Bynum Carter. You want the girls too?
Well, whoever strikes your fancy. Well, we'll talk about the girls in a minute.
It was that group, great bunch of people. Great bunch of
and
guys.
you still have relationships with many of those, or did for many years.
Exactly, we've lost most of them, unfortunately.
Right. Well, you have spent most all your life, and we'll get to some of the times you left Gastonia, but you returned to Gastonia after the war, but so you had a chance to, a lot of those folks did the same. They came back and stayed in Gastonia.
Right.
You graduated, you said, in 42. What was did you go to 11 or 12 grades?
I went to the extra year, the 12th grade.
You had the choice, I take it, that time.
That's right, and I stayed the extra year.
What was a senior in high school apt to do on a Saturday night or a Friday night in Gastonia back in the 40s?
Behave.
Well, you could tell, no, I won't tell anybody. This is our secret.
But you know the big contrast to today. Back then, I can't remember but a couple of guys in high school who drank, and that was just a couple of beers.
Uh-huh. That was the exception.
Occasionally somebody might sneak a drink. But the kids today, it's an entirely different story that bothers me. But there was very little drinking in our group in high school days.
Uh-huh.
We would have dances and get-togethers and dates, and we'd the minute grill and get a hamburger, go to the movie. No big deals.
Right.
these kids today hang out. Well, we dated. We had an individual girl we dated, but today they get a mob together, and I think they call it hanging out. So, but we had a good time. But
Well, it sounds like you have good memories of your high school experience and friendships.
Oh yes, very definitely.
The war came along, and it interrupted your life a little bit. I think you tell us where you went when you graduated and how you interacted with the war, if you did.
Well, along with about a dozen other Gaston County guys, some of whom we named previously, I forgot to mention Redbird and Elmore Thomas, that group, but about a dozen of us went to Citadel at the same time. It's a very strict military school. And before we finished our plebe year, freshman year, Uncle Sam called us out. That's another story, which I won't go into. But they asked us to enlist, which we did. They called us out, and I went in the Army in April of '43.
Oh, you weren't even through your first year of freshman.
They didn't let us finish our freshman year. We were just halfway through the second semester.
Well, based on what I've heard about the Citadel, you may have been happy about that.
Well, we were happy, and
You wanted to serve your country.
we wanted. Nobody that I know of hesitated about going in. It was an exciting time, and we're all going to be heroes and all that kind of stuff. And we got over that pretty rapidly.
Yeah. Where did they send you?
Well, I went to Fort Bragg for testing and all that stuff, and ended up in the dog-faced infantry in basic training in Fort McClellan, Alabama, which is not a very fun place.
I've never been there. I'm not sure.
It's not even there anymore.
Oh, it's not.
Don't bother.
After you finished your basic, I guess they had plans for you as well.
Well, a strange thing, they tested all of us during that as we finished basic training.
Did you want to be a pilot like everybody else?
No, hell no. I didn't want to get in there. Well, my vision wouldn't allow me to even qualify for the Air Force. Not from that standpoint anyway. So I was assigned to the infantry. And finishing our basic at Fort McClellan, they tested us all and decided a lot of us would go back to college, which it seemed to me now they didn't need us
Right.
in the infantry right
To
then.
put you on ice, so to speak.
So I was sent to Georgetown University in Washington for several months, and it was like college. It was almost like Citadel, but strict. It was military. You were in the Army.
Now, you gave me a picture earlier of you and Bobo Morris that was taken at a restaurant in D.C. Is that when you were? Is that when that picture was taken?
That's right. That's right. But after a few months there, then I was assigned to the 102nd Infantry Division in Camp Swift, Texas, right outside Austin.
Mm-hmm.
So I joined a division there that was preparing to go overseas. So,
And you did do that.
yes.
And found yourself on a Normandy beach at some point. Is that right?
Well, D-Day was June the 6th, but our division came into Normandy in September.
Mm-hmm.
It was cleared by then, except the harbor was so destroyed that they had to put us on tenders out in the English Channel and take us in. The ships couldn't land at the harbor. It was so devastated. So we spent some time and some other training in tents in Normandy, and it rained every day, and that wasn't a whole lot of fun. But two of you lived in a little pup tent together for, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, and then we moved up by freight cars and trucks and on foot up in northern France, through northern France and Belgium, not in a combat situation, just being transported, and entered Germany about near Aachen, where the breakthrough was just initiated into Germany, and we hit there about that time. But thank goodness Normandy was cleared when we got there, because fighting the way through the hedgerows, I don't see how the guys ever did it.
Right. Well, I guess they had to, and when you got to Germany, I guess is when you got to more of a combat situation.
I was in only a limited amount of combat. We had just replaced another group, even took over their foxholes. And we'd been there a few days when I got shot in the arm by friendly fire one night, and was sent.
Which arm?
Left.
Do you still know it's there?
No, it fortunately did not hit a bone. It was just a flesh. It went in, he came out there and didn't hit a bone. So I was.
That took you off the front line for a little while, or off the combat side.
One of my buddies in a foxhole nearby just. Well, anyway.
Thought you were somebody that you weren't.
That's right. It was in the middle of the night one night, and he started shooting, and I was fortunate that it wasn't a whole lot worse, but that wasn't a rare thing, friendly fire.
No, a lot more happened than people.
Particularly artillery.
Yes.
In the wrong places.
So you got sent back to the States, I believe, once you had a little R&R, I guess, or they had.
Well, no, I was I'd gotten out of the hospital. I didn't mean to give you a personal Army history, but anyway,
Well, that's all right.
I got out of the hospital, and was in a replacement depot. They put you all there, and they could send you then to anywhere they wanted to. You might end up in your own outfit, you might end up held who knows where.
Mm-hmm.
Well, while I was there, they came to me one day and said, "You're leaving here. You've got an appointment to West Point."
Did you know that was coming, or have any idea?
I knew that my parents had asked Congressman Bullwinkle if a congressional appointment was possible, and he made 3 appointments from Gaston County, all for the same opening. And I came back to the States, and we went to West Point for further testing, and I was what they called a second alternate. There were 2 guys ahead of me, and neither one of them got in.
Oh.
So I got in West Point. I was there almost a year, and I decided the military was absolutely not where I wanted to spend most of my life. So I left West Point, came home. This was after about almost 3 years of service of one kind or another. Entered Davidson and finished there in 48.
Slightly different atmosphere from Davidson to West Point, wasn't it? Now I want to. It's interesting to me about your early career and your Army career. I know you think that it's you've gone into a lot of detail about it, but I want to hear a little bit about how you met your wife and kind of how that all transpired, because I think that's. I think your family would be interested in that, and I'm interested in that, and I think she's a big part of your. You wouldn't want me to use the word success, but I'll say it anyway. She's a big part of the blessing in your life. Tell me how you met her and how that romance progressed.
Her sister Jean and my sister Khaki were very good friends, and I met Bette through Jean, and called her the next day for a date, and we started dating. She was at Salem while I was at Davidson, and we got together on the weekends, and the chemistry was there, and she's been the great blessing of my life. We've been very blessed with children and very happy.
And she, I guess, primarily her main job was raising the 4 kids when you were at work.
And I worked in Charlotte for a number of years, so she needed to be at home.
Right, because I know Martin and Rob and Steve and Joe, and I'm sure at one time or another they were a handful.
Double barrel, just like the Sumner family.
That's right. I've been there. I think you.
They were good kids.
They were,
and
they are.
They were fine.
I know you're proud of them.
Yes.
They've all stayed in the Gastonia for the most part. Steve's not here, but for the most part in the Gastonia area. And I know it's been a blessing for you to be able to work with them and see them and see the grandkids and everything else.
Absolutely.
But before we get there, you came back. I think your dad had maybe gotten out of the grocery business or was preparing to get out of the grocery business, was he not?
When I got out of service?
Yes, sir.
Yes, he had started a gasoline and fuel oil business known as Gastonia Merchants Oil Company. And that's what I was always interested in. I worked around service stations and bulk plants, and when I was quite young before he went off to school, and I liked that. And when I finished school, he invited me to join the business, which I did, and which my brother Charlie did in later years.
And y'all, what was your first job at the oil company? You recall?
Oh,
Or where did he hire you, as a salesman or?
No. We had a tire, battery, and accessory business along with the gasoline business. We sold tires and batteries to our service stations, and I worked at the bulk plant too, where you dispensed your fuel and took orders. And from a sales standpoint, we were looking for fuel oil customers. You found people building houses, sold the fuel oil. You looked for service station locations, and I was kind of mixed up in all of it and handled the fuel oil deliveries and that sort of thing.
Now, you had worked for your dad a little bit in kind of the in grocery store, but what was it like working for?
I didn't work for him in the grocery store very
you didn't,
much.
Right.
Most of my experience had been in the gasoline and oil business.
And what was that like working with you?
I enjoyed it.
You did?
Yeah.
Or did y'all have a good working relationship?
Well, I told you he was a quiet man, and he just told you what you expected to do, and he was a trusting person with me. If I screwed up, he might not say anything. If I did something that was noteworthy, he didn't say anything either. You just knew what was expected and you went on with it, but he didn't. He would he'd trust you to
do your job.
Get to do your job. Yeah.
And you worked with your brother as well. Later, I think he came into the business. You said
he did. He went to Davidson too, and he finished there. He came in, and later on, I don't know whether it was 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years, we sold that company and organized a small one with a different brand. It was not adequate to fund 2 families, so I went to work in Charlotte for R.S. Dixon Company and left the other business with Charlie.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of was your segue into, because a lot of people remember you for the banking business, and that was your segue into the banking business. Tell us how that happened, and if you would, kind of how you went from your Charlotte work to the Gastonia work.
Well, I worked with R.S. Dixon Company in Charlotte for 8 or 9 years, selling stocks and bonds, learned the trading department. Great experience, great people, great experience. And one day Alan Sims called me and said he wanted to talk to me.
Alan Sims was?
He was president of Citizens National Bank.
And their main office was, you could throw a rock and hit it right across the street from where we're sitting right now. Is that right?
Exactly.
And so you went over, and what happened?
Well, I went by him at the appointed time, and he said, I'm looking for somebody to succeed me as president of this bank, and I think you qualify. Well, I was shocked. But anyway, I accepted it, and I don't know how it worked out, but I was paid the grand sum of $12,500 a year to join the bank when I had 3 children then.
This would have been in the mid-'60s maybe? Or late 60s?
Yeah. So anyway.
So you took a little bit of a pay cut, it sounds like.
Right, substantial. So but I saw the opportunity. I thought I saw the opportunity, and in a few years I did assume the role he had brought me in for. And
was he a good mentor?
Yes. Did a great promoter of Gaston County.
Right.
he did a lot of great things for Booster County, and he personally, he lost both his sons, but he personally sent a lot of kids to college and did a lot of behind the scenes wonderful things. He was a fine banker, but a great philanthropic person too, who helped a lot of people, and that was a good lesson for me and a lot of other people.
Absolutely. A lot of people learned under his and yours later on. I know you stayed with the bank a long time, and even got out and helped start a new one. But you must have liked the banking business.
I did. I wouldn't today, but I did then.
It's not the same business,
No,
I take it.
all the regulation and complications today I wouldn't like.
Well, before we wrap this up, I want to ask you a little bit about what it was like living in Gastonia with 4 boys. We've talked about it a little bit earlier, but your wife Bet stayed home and did a lot of the heavy lifting. I assume you came home at the end of the day, and
Oh, yeah.
were you like my dad, where you find out who had to be spanked and who didn't when you got home?
Well, we didn't have too much of that, but of course there was some. But we at one point when I was working in Charlotte, we actually looked for a house over there and toyed with moving to Charlotte, but decided not to. And I'm glad Gastonia has a lot of great people. It's always had some problems, as any community does, but it's a great community because there are great people here, and we liked living here. And fortunately, we kept 3 sons here, but Steve went to work in Knoxville, Tennessee, just out of school, and has stayed there, has his own family, and has done well there. But Gastonia's home, and we wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
Well, you've been a big part of it, and I
Well,
want to
thank
tell
you.
you, I know you are humbly accept that compliment, but it's been a great privilege to spend this afternoon with you, talk a little bit. We could talk for a long time, but I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for being a part of 90 over 90. And until the next time, I'll see you on the internet. Thank you so much for being here.
Rob, thank you for doing this. I think it'll be not my part, but a great interest to a lot of people. All the guys you've interviewed. I think it'll be a wonderful movie, not movie.
Well,
what am I trying-
You're very kind.
presentation. I think
we-
it'll interest a lot of people.
Well, we hope that a lot of folks will learn a little about the area and about the people that are part of Gastonia, as well as other areas. And we thank you for being a part of that, because I know
May I add one thing?
Yes, sir.
In the process of this presentation, urge the young people here to step up to leadership roles. We need these young people to stay in Gastonia. These educated, smart young people. We need them here, and we need them to step up and volunteer for various things. There are a lot of opportunities, and help this community move forward.
Well, you certainly have the position, or speak from a position of experience with regard to that, and I think having you say that is hopefully will get some people to think about staying here and help lead Gastonia in this
Well,
area.
it's extremely important. Of course, they can't stay here unless they're jobs, and that's what we need to be working hard on, and I think we are.
Oh yeah, I think we've come a long way. Well, thank you again for being here.
It's a pleasure.
And
Thank you.
we'll conclude our interview. Thank you.
Very good.